Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What are you doing with your 24 hours? Every single day, each one of us is given the same gift, the same amount of time. 440 minutes, 86, 400 seconds. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, old or young, educated or not. Time is the great equalizer. But let me tell you this, it's not the time that matters. It's what you do with it. You've got to learn to own your hours. Let me tell you something. The reason most people never reach their potential is not because they lack talent, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity. It's because they give away their time like it means nothing. They say, I'm just passing time. Passing time, you're passing your life. You don't pass time. You invest it. You build with it. You fight for it. Because time is your life. And if you don't own it, someone else will. Let me tell you a story. There was a man I once knew who had a dream of opening his own business. He talked about it for years, said he had the vision. He had the name picked out, the colors, the website. He even had a little notebook where he sketched out the layout. But every time I asked him what he was doing to make it real, he said, I'm too busy. Busy doing what? Watching Netflix, scrolling through social media, answering calls that don't matter, saying yes to everybody else's agenda. He was busy being distracted, busy being available to everything except his purpose. And you know what happened? Years passed. The dream faded. The fire went out. And now he's watching someone else live the life he talked about. Why? Because he never owned his hours. Listen, you can't build a future if you're constantly renting out your time to things that don't serve you. You can't make progress if your priorities are optional. You need to make a decision that your time is sacred, that your time is expensive, that your time is not for sale to mediocrity, to distractions, to procrastination. Let me ask you, what's stealing your hours right now? Who's robbing your time? What habits are holding you hostage? What excuses are you entertaining while your destiny sits on the shelf? You say, I don't have time. That's a lie. The truth is, you don't have priorities. You've got to start looking at your schedule and saying, does this move me closer to who I want to be? Or does this keep me stuck in who I've always been? Us. Own your morning. Don't wake up reacting. Wake up creating. Set your intention. Speak over your life. Put your feet on the ground with fire and direction. Own your work. Don't just do it for the paycheck. Do it with purpose. Be excellent. Be present. Be relentless. Own your evenings. Don't waste your nights numbing yourself with entertainment. Use that time to sharpen your mind, fuel your spirit, invest in your dreams. People say, I'll do it tomorrow. No, you won't. If you won't own today, you'll keep renting tomorrow. And let me tell you something. Tomorrow is not promised. You don't own tomorrow, but you can own this hour right now. There was a woman I met once who worked 2 jobs, raised 3 kids, and still found time to write every night. You know what she told me? She said, this book is my freedom, and I'll be damned if I let my excuses own my hours. That woman published her book, changed her life, and now she speaks to others about what's possible when you stop giving your time to your limitations and start investing it in your liberation. So what's the difference between the ones who succeed and the ones who stay stuck? It's not always talent. It's not always connections. It's not even always luck. It's discipline. The successful ones don't wait for motivation. They work when it's raining, when it's hard, when they're tired, when it's not popular. Why? Because they made a decision that their time matters, that their life is too important to be lived on autopilot. They said, this is my season. This is my hour. I refuse to let another day slip through my fingers. You see, time will pass whether you show up or not. But greatness only shows up for those who own their hours. You want change, you want success, you want legacy. Then own your hours like your life depends on it. Because it does start saying no to the noise and why yes. To your next level, start saying no to the comfort and why yes to the commitment. Start saying no to later and why yes to right now. Because right now is all you've got. So I dare you, own your hours like they're gold. Own your hours like your dream is on the clock. Own your hours like you've got one shot. Because you do. The clock is ticking, but you're the one who decides what gets done. Stand up inside yourself, get clear, get fierce, get hungry. And from this day forward, when someone asks you how you're doing, don't just say, I'm good. Look them in the eye and say, I'm owning my hours. And I'm building the life I was born to live. This is not just a quote to remember. It's a mindset to live by. Time isn't just a unit of measurement. It's your existence broken into seconds. Every second you live is a piece of your life you can't get back. You can make money back. You can rebuild relationships. You can recover from failure. But you can never rewind the clock. When time leaves, it takes a piece of your life with it. That's why you've got to start treating time like your most sacred currency. The truth is, too many people live by reaction rather than intention. They wake up reacting to messages, reacting to problems, reacting to people's demands. Their day gets dictated by other people's priorities instead of their own purpose. They let their time get pulled in every direction, hoping something meaningful happens along the way. But let me be clear, nothing meaningful happens by accident. Nothing great is built by chance. Everything of value is built by intention. Living with intention means you don't just move through the day. You command your day. You wake up with a sense of direction. You don't just ask, what do I feel like doing today? You ask, what must be done today that brings me closer to who I'm becoming? You stop giving your hours to things that drain your energy and feed your doubt. You start building a life you actually want, not just managing the one you ended up with. When you live by impulse, your emotions take the wheel. You scroll mindlessly because you feel bored. You say yes to things because you don't want to disappoint people. You waste hours procrastinating because the task feels uncomfortable. But every impulsive decision robs you of momentum. Every time you react without awareness, you're handing your power over to the moment instead of owning it. You're not making choices, you're just responding to noise. But when you live intentionally, you begin to see time as a gift, not a gap to be filled. You realize that every minute has weight, every hour has potential. And once you shift into that level of awareness, your life starts to elevate. You start to say no without guilt. You begin scheduling your goals, not just your appointments. You create space for your health, your growth, your dream, not when you're free, but because it matters. It's easy to confuse movement with progress. Being busy doesn't mean you're being productive. You can spend your whole day putting out fires and still go to bed unfulfilled. You can have a packed calendar and still be going nowhere. That's what happens when you let impulse lead. Intention, on the other hand, keeps you aligned. It forces you to ask the hard questions. Is this the best use of my time right now? Is this activity building my future or distracting me from it? Is this a priority or just pressure? People who build extraordinary lives aren't born with more hours. They just own the hours they have. They're deliberate. They're focused. They don't try to do everything. They do what matters most. And they do it consistently. They understand that time isn't just a tool. It's a mirror. It reflects what you value. It exposes what you tolerate. And it shows whether your life is moving by design or by default. If your life feels chaotic, if your dreams feel distant, if you feel stuck in cycles that never move you forward, start by looking at where your hours are going. Time doesn't lie. It tells the truth of how you're living. And if you want a different life, you don't need more time. You need to be intentional with the time you already have. You can talk about your dreams all day long. You can post quotes, make vision boards, and speak affirmations in the mirror. But none of that matters if your daily schedule doesn't align with what you say you want. It's not about what you claim is important. It's about what you actually make time for. Your calendar tells the real story. Your to-do list reveals your true values. If your schedule is filled with distractions, delays, and detours, then it's not your potential that's the problem. It's your priorities. Potential is what you're capable of. It's the possibility that exists inside of you. But possibility means nothing without action. You could have the talent of a champion, the intelligence of a genius, the creativity of a visionary. But if you don't prioritize the habits and choices that unlock that potential, it just sits inside you, unused, wasted, silent. Your schedule is where that potential either wakes up or stays asleep. It's the daily decisions, the repeated behaviors, the consistent effort that give potential the room to become power. People often say, I don't have time, but that's rarely the truth. The truth is they're spending time on things that don't serve what they say they value. They're making time for entertainment, for comfort, for convenience, but not for growth, not for mastery, not for legacy. You'll always find time for what you truly value. If it's not on your schedule, it's not your priority. And if it's not your priority, don't expect progress. You can't say you want to be healthy, but never schedule time to exercise or prepare meals. You can't say you want to write a book, but never block off an hour to sit down and write. You can't say you want financial freedom, but never carve out time to learn, plan, or build. That's not ambition. That's just a wish list. Wishes don't build anything. Structure does. Strategy does. Consistent time, intentionally spent, creates results. Your schedule is the most honest mirror you'll ever look into. It tells you exactly what you're committed to. If your dream is not on your daily or weekly schedule, it's not a real commitment. It's a someday fantasy. And someday is where potential goes to die. You've got to move your goals from your imagination into your routine. You've got to build them into your life like non-negotiables. Look at how you spend your mornings. Look at how you use your breaks. Look at what you do in your evenings. These windows of time are opportunities, but only if you treat them that way. Otherwise, they become lost moments, moments that quietly slip by while your potential remains untapped. Every hour has a purpose, whether you assign one or not. And if you don't assign purpose to your hours, the world will assign them for you. Distractions will. Other people will. Life will fill the space with anything but growth if you let it. Don't let your schedule be ruled by urgency. Urgency screams, but importance whispers. Most people spend their time reacting to what's loudest instead of responding to what's deepest. They move through the day putting out fires and checking boxes, but never stopping to ask if any of it really matters. You have to design your day in a way that honors your values, not just your responsibilities. It's not enough to get things done. You need to get the right things done. Potential without priority is wasted energy. The people who rise to greatness aren't necessarily the most gifted. They are the most organized around what they value. They don't try to fit success into their schedule. They build their schedule around success. They create time to learn, time to grow, time to execute. They understand that every hour spent is a vote for the life they're building. So don't just measure your life by your ideas, your ambition, or your dreams. Measure it by your calendar. Measure it by what gets your time, your focus, your energy. Because what gets scheduled gets done, And what gets done defines who you become. There is a difference between living with discipline and living with excuses. One builds, the other borrows. One creates momentum, the other delays progress. Discipline is the internal agreement you make with yourself to keep showing up, no matter how you feel, no matter how hard it gets, no matter who's watching. Excuses are the stories you tell yourself to justify why you didn't. Discipline respects time. Excuses waste it. And if you want to own your hours, truly own them, you must let discipline take the lead. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's not about grinding yourself into the ground. It's about being committed. It's about showing up on the days when motivation is missing. It's about doing what you said you would do long after the feeling that made you say it has faded. Excuses show up in disguise. They come dressed as logic. They sound like reason. I'm tired. I'm busy. I'll do it later. But behind every excuse is a silent surrender of your power. Discipline never negotiates with comfort. It makes decisions based on commitment, not convenience. When you live with discipline, your hours belong to your mission. They are directed. They are assigned. They are guarded. Discipline doesn't let you waste 3 hours scrolling through distractions. It doesn't let you push everything to tomorrow and hope for a better mood. Discipline grabs hold of time and tells it where to go. It turns intentions into actions and actions into progress. Excuses, on the other hand, leave your hours up for grabs. They put your goals in the hands of emotion, delay, and chance. Every time you choose discipline, you take ownership of your day. Every time you choose excuses, you hand that ownership away. You put your goals on lie-away and your future on pause. Discipline isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like getting up 30 minutes earlier to train. Sometimes it's sitting down and doing the hard task before the easy one. Sometimes it's saying no to what feels good so you can say yes to what builds you. Excuses sound comforting in the moment, but they rob you in silence. They seem harmless, but they add up into years of regret. The difference between high performers and average performers isn't talent most of the time. It's discipline. It's the ability to execute consistently, not just occasionally. People who rise, people who succeed at the highest level, have one thing in common. They respect time enough to use it with intention. They don't wait until they feel like it. They do it because they said they would. That's ownership. That's integrity. That's how you start owning your hours instead of renting them out to distraction, doubt, or laziness. Is freedom disguised as structure? It might feel restrictive at first, but over time, it gives you control. It gives you results. It gives you confidence. When you can trust yourself to follow through, you no longer live in fear of failure. You no longer wonder if you can do it, because you've built that muscle. Excuses shrink your capacity. They make your world smaller. They tell you, you'll never be consistent. They whisper, you don't have what it takes. But they're lying. They're protecting your comfort, not your calling. Every time you choose discipline over excuse, you send a signal to your future that you are serious. You are not just interested. You are invested. You are not just dreaming. You are deciding. And it's in those moments, those small, quiet, disciplined decisions that the big results begin to take shape. You don't need more time. You need more ownership of your time. Discipline gives you that ownership. Excuses will always ask for more later. Discipline tells you to act now. Time is not just slipping away in big blocks. It's being stolen in tiny, quiet moments by distractions we don't even notice anymore. A quick check of your phone, a scroll through social media, a reply to a message that didn't need your attention. 1 minute becomes 10, 10 becomes 30. Before you know it, the time you set aside to build something meaningful has vanished. What we don't realize is that every time we say yes To these moments of distraction, we are actively saying no to something that matters more. Distraction is not always loud. Sometimes it comes disguised as productivity. You're doing something, but it's not the right thing. You're moving, but not toward your purpose. Distraction pulls your energy into low impact tasks, small talk, meaningless input. It keeps your mind busy, but your future stagnant. And the cost isn't just lost time. It's lost momentum, lost focus, lost belief in what's possible. You end the day exhausted and unfulfilled, not because you didn't work hard, but because your attention was scattered. Your destiny requires your full presence. It demands focus. It calls for intentional effort. You cannot build something extraordinary with partial attention. You can't create a legacy while constantly checking out. There are things you were meant to do, lives you were meant to impact, goals you were born to chase, but none of them happen by accident. They require you to protect your time like your future depends on it, because it does. You have to start looking at every invitation to distraction as a threat to your mission. Not everything that calls for your attention deserves a response. Not every notification needs to be seen. Not every conversation needs your energy. You've got to become ruthless about what you let in and what you let go. Because the more you dilute your attention, the harder it becomes to hear your own voice, to stay connected to your own path. Saying no isn't selfish. It's strategic. It's not about being rigid. It's about being responsible. Every time you say no to a distraction, you're saying yes to your vision. You're making space for your work, your growth, your discipline. The world is full of noise. People will always have demands. Entertainment will always be available. But time, that's a limited resource. You only get so much of it. The way you spend it reveals how serious you are about where you're going. Distraction is the silent killer of dreams. Not because it shows up all at once, but because it chips away slowly. It numbs your drive. It replaces purpose with passivity. It makes you comfortable with delay. You start believing you have more time than you really do. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow never builds anything. Only action does. Only presence does. Only discipline does. The people who create impact, the ones who shift culture, lead movements, write books, build businesses, transform lives, those people protect their focus. They build walls around their priorities. They don't allow everything and everyone to interrupt their process. They say no more than they say yes, because they understand that distraction costs more than it seems. It steals clarity. It steals time. And it steals the opportunity to become who they were designed to be. When you start guarding your time, you start guiding your life. When you filter what deserves your energy, your power increases. Not because you're doing more, but because you're doing what matters. Saying no becomes easier when you're deeply connected to your why. The more aware you are of your destiny, the less entertained you'll be by distractions. The clearer your vision, the stronger your filter. Because when you truly want something, you stop negotiating with what takes you away from it. Time doesn't magically appear. It's not waiting around a corner hoping you'll notice it. It doesn't knock on your door and offer you an extra hour to chase your dream or work on your craft. Time has to be carved out, not discovered. You don't stumble across it. You create it. You prioritize it. You fight for it. And if something truly matters to you, you don't wait for the perfect moment or ideal condition. You schedule it, protect it, and show up for it consistently. People often say, I just need to find the time. But that phrase is a delay tactic, a disguised excuse. What they're really saying is, it's not a priority yet. Because when something becomes a priority, time is no longer something you search for. It becomes something you structure your life around. You wake up earlier, stay up later. Cancel what doesn't align and rearrange your routine to make room for what moves you forward. What matters gets time. What doesn't get pushed aside. It's not about how busy you are. It's about what you're busy with. Every day offers the same 24 hours. The difference is how people allocate them. Some people build businesses, master skills, transform their health, write books, create legacies, all while managing families, jobs, and responsibilities. Others drift through the same 24 hours, feeling stuck, overwhelmed, and unfulfilled. The gap isn't time, it's intention, it's clarity. It's the decision to make time instead of hoping for it. Making time requires discipline. It means saying no to distractions that seem urgent but aren't important. It means choosing progress over comfort, growth over entertainment, vision over convenience. It means understanding that every yes you give to one thing is a no to something else. So you have to choose wisely. You have to be willing to disappoint others so you don't disappoint yourself. You have to be willing to let go of good things to create space for great ones. The truth is, your future is already being shaped by your current calendar. Look at your week. What are you making time for? What's consistently on your schedule? Is your growth on there? Is your dream on there? Is your health, your craft, your calling on there? Or are you giving your hours away to things that don't build you? The answers aren't found in your intentions. They're found in your routine. That's where priorities are proven. Making time also requires clarity. You can't make time for what matters if you're not clear on what matters. Vague goals create vague schedules. But when you know your mission, when you know what you're building, it becomes much easier to cut out what doesn't serve it. You stop trying to do everything and start focusing on what truly moves the needle. You stop running in circles and start walking in purpose. It doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't need 10 hours a day to start changing your life. Sometimes it's just 1 hour of deep, focused work, 1 hour of deliberate learning, 1 hour of exercise, 1 hour of writing. But that hour, protected, consistent, uninterrupted, can shift everything. That's the hour you own. That's the hour that says, this matters. And the more you protect that time, the more momentum you build. There will always be demands. There will always be noise. The world is full of people, problems, and platforms trying to steal your focus. But none of them have the right to dictate your life unless you give them permission. You have to stop waiting for time and start taking it. You don't manage time by chance. You master it by choice. And every time you choose to make time for what matters, you are casting a vote for the future you want to live.